Hey, Doreen.
Leon, how are you?
Good seeing you and your daughter.
Yeah, right. She's a cutie, isn't she?
Yeah, she's nice, very nice, pleasant.
She is.
She's very intelligent like her mother.
Oh, you're a flatterer, but how intelligent. So how,
The time is now 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting for June 16th, 2022. I'm James Sullivan. As chairman of the board, I'd ask you now to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country.
Pledge of-
Allegiance to the flag
to the flag
United
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and posting the agenda on the township website. Ms. C, could we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Connor,
Here.
Mr. Stoner,
Here.
Ms. Chevalier,
Here.
Mr. Scogno,
Here,
Ms. Andrews,
Here.
Ms. Testaverde, Mr. Psychowski, Mr. Kunstwich.
You're muted, Joe. Okay, we can see that he is here, oh, there you go. This meeting is being conducted electronically via the internet by a webinar. It's unique and it takes patience on all involved,
Here, present.
as we no longer are gathered in the courtroom, but we do so this meeting anyway from our own homes or our own offices. This meeting is also being televised by OBTV channel 15 as well as YouTube Live. I remind those watching on any device that there's a 30-second delay in communication. This will be important to remember if you wish to personally join in the public portion. Anyone calling in to join the public portion will have to lower their device, so you'll be confused by the time delay. I would obviously ask all of our own participants right now to silence their cell phones to avoid any disturbances. Our meeting follows the same protocols as always. We have a couple of general housekeeping issues this evening, followed by 3 applications. I don't see a need that we'll have for a recess this evening, but should we, and you're watching at home, you'll be notified of the recess, and it usually lasts no more than 5 minutes. If you have any questions and concerns about the applications this evening, I suggest you take some notes while you're listening to it. That way, when you call in, they'll be right there for you to refresh your memory on what you wanted to speak to us about. That is all I have. Ms. C, would you please remind all the folks about some of the things that I missed?
Sure. Just a few reminders. The zoning board members will be unmuted during the first half of the meeting when they will be required to vote on other agenda items. The zoning board attorney, chairman, and secretary will remain unmuted throughout the meeting. Everyone else will be muted. Once the presentation for the application begins, the applicant's professionals will be asked to turn on their video and unmute themselves in the order in which they will testify. For the public, I will announce the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number to come forward and announce their name and address. I will also announce the last 4 digits of the next caller's phone number so that they will be prepared. We will share our screen to display any exhibits. The meeting information will be displayed on the screen multiple times during the meeting so that any resident who wishes to call in and join the meeting can do so. Please be patient. You will have an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. C. Item 3 is minutes, but we're going to skip that because I don't think that all the board members received a copy of the minutes from June 2nd. So we'll vote on that at our next meeting in July. We'll move right to a discussion, and that's the 2021 annual report that needs to be filed every year. We've put it off a little because we've had some other issues. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sawant right now to begin talking about it. Ms. Sawant.
Good evening, board members. You may have received a copy of the draft report. It's pretty self-explanatory. There is a list of variances that were approved by the zoning board. So last year, there were 27 C variance applications that were approved by the zoning board. Most of them were for construction, reconstruction, or expansion of homes, and majority of them were for driveway expansions or construction of detached garages, pools, barns, etc. There were 15 D variance applications that were by the board, mostly related to the use, the floor area, and density. And actually, if you go through all the pages, it gives you a detailed information about each application. There were 2 applications that were withdrawn with prejudice. But what I think the data or the information reflects is the 3 things that should be important or worth noting. One of the item is something which I have talked about often through my memos or with my numerous discussions with the zoning board. Our schedule of permitted uses is based on the North American industrial standards, which is hyper specific. I think we need to evaluate those so that we can eliminate some of the applications that are heard by the zoning board. To just give you an example, if you may recall, there was an application recently, Song Lee, which was for an ice cream parlor. It is on Route 9 and within the commercial district. However, because our ordinance is hyper specific, that use is not permitted. And the owner had to go through the zoning board process. I can give you numerous such examples, but over the years, ever since at least the last 5 years, our zoning officer, myself, we have been keeping a close eye and we have been updating our ordinances. You see that in the changes that came about the economic development opportunity zone ordinance. We have been cleaning up, or rather the newer redevelopment plans or the newer zoning ordinances that were written are not based on the NIC system, and we have been redefining uses. So that is one observation. The next one is the R5 zone standards, and majority of the applications that the zoning board hears are within the R5 zone. And the problem with this zone is the zone requires minimum 5,000 square feet of lot area, and majority of the homes or majority of the parcels within the R5 zone are somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. So what happens by that is when a homeowner wants to expand a house or wants to rebuild a house, it triggers a floor area ratio variance. And naturally, in that case, we have to send them to the zoning board. So Damien and I have been discussing this. Probably it's time for us to take a look at the R5 zone standards and reclassify them, come up with newer bulk standards that reflect the existing land use pattern. So that was the second one. And the third one, actually, I already started working on it. I made a change in the master plan. The council already approved the change. And that is that in Old Ridge, there are at least, Damien and I had counted, there are at least 22 developments that were based off or that were approved as part of alternate development standards. What happened is when these developments were approved, there were new bulk standards created, and they were because the whole idea with alternate development is that you build lot size, or you have lot sizes that are non-conforming with the underlying zone, but then in lieu of allowing smaller lot size, you create open space on those developments. But the issue with that is there is no zoning ordinance that really has those bulk standards written anywhere. These projects are 20, 30 years old, so there is no way for us to go back, or we don't even have site plans for those or approved plans for those developments. So when somebody wants to build a pool in their backyard or somebody wants to expand, it's a real challenge for Damien or me to go and find that information. It becomes a challenge to, now that we both have been consistently working on this for last 5 years, and Damien for even longer, our predecessors had made their call, or they had used their own rationale to approve some of them. When we have revisited it, we did more information, we dug more into it, and we not necessarily agree. And then the homeowner is upset when we say no. So we want to take this opportunity, go back and re-evaluate these developments, come up with standards, so rezone them with what exists on the lot, so that moving forward, it is easy. One, we have standards to base our argument or judgment on, and make sure that the development is consistent. So last year when I not last year, actually, beginning of this year, when I updated the master plan to include numerous other recommendations related to redevelopment planning, there was a recommendation that I had added to say that all the old approved GDPs, the general development plans, we have 2 of them in the town, which were written 30 years back. And then there are almost 22 alternate developments or developments that were approved with alternate development standards. We go back and revisit them and reclassify them, rezone them, so that the process becomes smoother. So these are the 3 recommendations, and they are included on the last page of the zoning annual report. And should the board accept this, I will be passing this along to the council so that it helps them make informed decisions when it comes to the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Sawan. It was very well written and structured, and the conclusions are concise. And I certainly agree with you. And I know that a number of years ago, we were able to satisfy some of the bigger homes were having the unfinished basements, and we were able to, stop from having to making people to come in for a D4 floor area variance because it's a use, and it's cumbersome and it's costly. So I certainly support that. Mr. Dasty, do you have any comments, sir?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. The report I thought was very thorough, a lot of information, and Vina, as always, does a great job. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Board members, if anyone has a question or comment, now would be the time to make that, and then we will take a vote as to moving this report so that it can be turned over to the council. Any questions from any of the board members? I can see everybody, so if you just raise your hand. Okay, I see none. Mr. Dasty, we don't need a public portion on this, correct?
You do not, Mr. Chairman. I think a simple vote, and again, just for the board members, I mean, this is the annual report of what happened last year, and Vina's office certainly is in tune with all the applications. So it's just a summary report. So it's more administrative than anything else.
It is, and thank you once again from your office, Ms. Sawant, for the
Thank you so much.
concise report. I'll move this for approval. Does someone want to second it?
Connor, I'll second.
Moved in second. Roll call, please, Missy.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Once again, thank you, Ms. Sawant. I think you're going to be leaving the meeting now, correct?
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next month.
Thank you so much. Actually, before I leave, there's one thing if you don't mind, I just wanted to let the board know. There are numerous big applications that are coming in front of the board, and you won't believe this, but I have started giving out dates into October and November already. There are people getting a little frustrated, but it's just that Old Bridge has been busy, both planning board and zoning board. So I may have to request, or there might be developers who want to request for special meetings. And when that happens, I will bring it up in front of the zoning board. But please be aware that we really have big applications coming our way. It's going to be a very busy second half of the year, and I may have to schedule some specials.
Well, thank you for that advance notice, and it's not unusual pre-COVID that we would wind up doing one or two of those annually, just to accommodate some of the bigger applications. So I would ask for the board's cooperation moving forward should this happen.
Sure, and I will be mindful, if possible, I will try to club the C nights and the D nights, because what happens, it's like a pattern. During summer, most homeowners want to get their approvals done and build throughout summer. But for bigger project, it's not a short window. So towards the end of summer, when the C variances, or mid of summer, when the C variances slow down, I might be able to convert some of the C nights into D nights, and then we might be able to just keep chugging along and not have applicants wait as much.
That would be great if that can happen. Thank you, Ms. Sawant.
And Mr. Chairman, just by way of maybe a recommendation, I mean, we all have 2 Thursdays a month already blocked off. Maybe Ms. C can kind of pull everyone if there's another day of the month that works for everybody, and that could be the hold extra date for a special meeting, because that way, because I know I can appreciate how crazy it is for Ms. C to find out, every month what is the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 19th. But if there's a certain day of the month that works for everybody, just like these every other Thursday, that might be a way to kind of have everyone reserves that date for the next 6 months.
That's a great idea, Mr. Dusty.
And, just to add on to it, it's going to be a little challenge, and it has been, because planning board has been doing a lot of special meetings. The problem is our Tuesdays are taken up by the council. Our Wednesdays is court. And then Thursdays is zoning board and planning board. So it's a bit of a challenge. Last year with planning board, and towards the first half of this year, planning board special meetings, I tried to schedule them on Mondays because I didn't have a choice. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll keep you posted. I just want the board to be aware. We're trying every bit to help residents. We're trying every bit to help businesses. So your cooperation is truly appreciated.
Thank you again, Ms. Sawant. Enjoy the upcoming holiday. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. All right, board members, we're going to move on. We have one resolution that's 04-2022Z, GHS Properties Management LLC. It was a C&D variance. Mr. Dasty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a D variance application that was denied at the last meeting. There was a motion to approve, but it did not receive the affirmative number of votes required to pass. So the application did fail. So the resolution that we've prepared memorializes that, the findings of fact that the board found the testimony. But again, it did not receive the required number of votes. As I recall, there was only 6 board members, I think, at the last meeting. Oh, excuse me, there was only 5, only 5. So Ms. C maybe has the individuals that were here at the last meeting, and those would be the individuals that should appropriately vote to approve the resolution.
Right, just the 2 that voted no, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be Ms. Chevalier would be the only one. I think Ms. Testaverde's not here. And I believe those are the 2 negative votes. So would 1 vote pass it, Mr. Dasty?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should, if Ms. Chevalier is going to be at the next meeting, then perhaps we should carry it. Just
she's Ms. Chevalier is here. Ms. Testaverde.
Oh, excuse me, Ms.
That's okay.
Testaverde at the next meeting.
Oh, we'll wait till the next meeting for it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, board members, you understand we would want to have both votes, so we'll continue that matter, the resolution, until the next meeting. All right, Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Dasty, the dates on this resolution, you have June 16th on the upper right, and then on the where the initial approval was June 17th of 21. And then the 4th one down is whereas, and then whereas you have June 16th of 22.
Mr. Scogno, hang on 1 second. You're doing a little too fast for me. Hang on 1 second.
All right, no problem.
No, Mr. Scogno, I think you may be looking at I think you're looking at the last resolution, I can get the person's name right. The Georgios.
Yes.
Yes, that's a different resolution, sir.
Oh, that's a
and
different resolution.
It is, and I can explain those dates, Mr. Chairman. I can do it now or when we get to it, whatever your pleasure is.
I don't have another resolution on my agenda.
I have
was
this resolution. I don't have the other resolution.
So there was an add-on that came through late in discussion with Natalie and Vina.
Okay.
There was a variance application that was approved about a year ago, and they
Okay.
had a year to complete the construction. The construction has not happened yet, so they have requested a 1-year extension. I did see an amended agenda floating around late this afternoon, but this is Georgios Giannakopoulos, and it's application 29-2021Z. And their 1 year to complete their construction expires tomorrow. So they have asked for a 1-year extension of their approval. And that is why, Mr. Scogno, it says the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd are the years in the resolution, because they had 1 year to complete it from June of 21 to tomorrow. And they're asking for a 1-year extension to June of 23.
Right, but it states that they appeared before the board.
They're appearing here tonight, sir, unless something's changed and we're all going to be even more confused. It's my understanding that they were going to appear here tonight as the last item of business, asking for a 1-year extension. And Natalie, if I'm saying anything wrong, please jump in and correct me.
I don't see it on the agenda.
I don't believe they're required to. I did provide the applicant with the Zoom information because they had asked for it.
Okay.
However, I do not see them present tonight.
They did make the request through Vina's office, and that's how it came
Correct.
to my attention. So I don't know that they necessarily have to be here. If they're not going to be here, fine. But they did make the request because their 1 year to complete their construction expires tomorrow, and they wanted a 1-year extension. And under the municipal land use law, you're allowed 3 1-year extensions from your approvals if you don't complete the project.
Right. This is common. And well, it's not that common, but it does frequently happen, and we do grant the 1-year extension. But I don't have that on my agenda, so I may have printed this earlier than the late day. So
I just printed my agenda. It's not on there.
okay, if you would just read into the record, Miss, see if you have it, what the number is, and the wishes for a 1-year extension on that.
Sure. The application number is 29-2021Z, Georgios Giannakopoulos. And this is for an extension of approval, as Mr. Dasty just stated.
Okay, board members, any questions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to kind of highlight it a little bit.
Go ahead.
It was an approval to construct a single-family home. From my discussions with Ms. Sawant, the construction has not occurred yet. The property is under contract to be sold, and they want to now build the home. So it was approved June 17 of 2021. They had a year, which is the language in all of our resolutions. They have 1 year to complete it once they get a building permit. That 1 year expires tomorrow. So they have requested one of their 1-year extensions until June 17 of 23 to complete it. It's not under the municipal land use law. You are entitled to 3 1-year extensions. They have requested it. I apologize that it didn't make it to you all earlier. That was not my understanding. But in any event, I did prepare a resolution that grants them a 1-year extension because their intent is to build the home in the next 6 months.
Mr. Dasty, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do see a raised hand. Actually, the applicant is present. I don't know if it would be appropriate for me to promote them and allow them to unmute themselves.
I don't think we're going to need them.
Yeah, it is very administrative in nature, members of the board. So it's, but we do it by way of resolutions. So that way there's a paper trail, because the current resolution that we have says they had to do it by tomorrow.
Right. Board members, any questions, raise a hand and I'll certainly recognize it. Okay, again, it's administrative extension of time for 1 year from, I guess, tomorrow's date, correct, Mr. Dasty?
That is correct. It'll be from June 17 of 22 to June 17 of 23.
All right, someone want to move the resolution? I will. Is there a second?
A second, Stoner.
Moved in second, roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
yes,
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yeah.
Mr. Scogno,
yes,
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. And I apologize for not having it on my agenda, but we got the business done, so we can move forward. Thank you, Mr. Dasty.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to go to our applications now, board members. First one is 18-2022Z. That's Sanjay Seth, located 42 Donald Circle. That's block 11240, lot 26. It's for home addition requiring a C variance. Applicant proposes a one-story addition to his two-story single-family home. Mr. Do I see you on the screen? Oh, there you are, sir. I see you on my screen. Is it is it Seth Sanjay or is it Sanjay Seth?
It's Sanjay Seth.
Okay, sir. The board, are you going to be the only one testifying on this matter?
As a matter of fact, I also think my contractor who's going to help me with the construction is on this meeting.
Okay. The board attorney has to swear you in first. Okay, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Dasty.
Thank you. Mr. Seth, can you raise your right hand for me, please, sir? Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And we are recording the meeting, so if you could just spell your first and last name for us so it's clear in the record, sir.
First name is Sanjay, Sanjay, and the last name is Seth, Seth.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, you're not represented by attorney. These matters that you don't need one, and this is a kind of a home, what we could consider a homeowner's matter. So we want you to feel comfortable, but there are certain proofs, obviously, that you need to put on the record, and we'll try and help you along as we go. But what we'd like you to do, in your own words, is tell the board members what you're going to do, how you're going to accomplish that, why you're doing this, anything that you feel is important for us to know, to have enough knowledge to be able to either approve or disapprove the application. And then if you're going to introduce someone else as a witness, we'll swear him in as well, and he might have to tell us, and maybe he wants to tell us some technical issues. But you can just go at your own pace now, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I live at 42 Donald Circle and have been living here for almost close to 25 years now. And both my children have grown up in this town. They went to Old Bridge schools. I love the area and would not like to move from here for whatever reason. I am adding an extra bedroom with a bathroom on the main level of the house. And it's going to be a single-story structure. And the main reason I'm doing this is because my mother, who is 89 years old, lives with me. Right now, she's fine climbing up to her bedroom on the upper level. But in anticipation, God forbid, that she cannot make that climb, I would like to have this room on the main level where it's easier for her to go to her room. And also, I personally would like to take care of her at home and not have her go to a nursing home because of the absence of such a structure.
Well, it's admirable, sir, and it's becoming more common as our parents wind up, coming to live with their children. So it's great that you're going to try and, keep her there and certainly not accommodate her on that ground floor. Now, you said there was is it an architect or who's the fellow?
Yes, there is Didar Singh. He's the construction person who's going to help me with this.
Okay, I see him.
He's on this, yes.
Okay. Mr. Singh, the board attorney will swear you in, okay, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Singh, would you raise your right hand for me, please, sir? And do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And can we please spell your first and last name, Mr. Singh?
First name Deedar, last name Singh.
And Mr. Singh, you're
I am a
you own-
local general contractor in Old Bridge.
Okay, do you have a name of a company or is it?
Camera Home Improvement.
Your experience in building homes, sir, or building additions,
Yes, sir.
and you've been doing this for quite a while, I guess?
For 20 years, sir.
Okay. So please proceed and tell us what we need to know.
Well, actually, we're building an addition. It's approximately 22 feet by 14 feet, 318 square feet. And there is a C variance required because the rear yard is 45 feet required, and we're proposing 33 feet. So taking away 14 feet of the rear yard. That is the permission we're requesting today.
Okay, and would you agree with what the applicant has said, that he wants them, it's a one bedroom, I guess, and a freestanding bathroom within?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, he's adequately explained that to us, correct?
Correct.
All right, let me ask the zoning officer why the need for the variance. I'm assuming it's a setback. Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. As always the case when we have an informed applicant and the contractor is assisting him, they've stolen my thunder. Basically stated everything that I've needed to say on the record. So I'll just reiterate for clarification. The applicant proposes a relatively modest addition, 14 by 22.8 in the rear yard. And the technical issue is that the setback required of the applicant stated 45, but the zoning requirements reflect a 40-foot rear yard. And the applicant is proposing 31.25. It's a little less than the applicant's professional just indicated, but that's a good thing. It means it's less onerous. This is a corner property, and corner properties have substantive large front yards, typically on two sides. And that in part is playing into the equation. Since he has two front yards, the building is set back further and more centered on the lot than might normally be the case. And the lot is a little bit more square, where most of the lots in Old Bridge have a width and then usually have a greater depth to accommodate for the larger setbacks that are often contemplated by our ordinances with front and side yards. So if this was not a corner property, he'd probably have an additional 20 feet of play front to back, because his lot would likely be wider, narrower and longer. And such is the case. One of the things that I'd like to say for the board's clarification, so the board understands the scope of the project, is one of the things that we look at when we're looking at additions is we're looking at the placement, adequate light, air, open space, which the bulk standards help regulate and control, and then the mass of the building to ensure that structures are not too large through our FAR requirements. And I think it's important to note here that while there is a side yard, rear yard setback issue, the applicant is reaching near the limit of the FAR, but hasn't exceeded it. So the structure is not too big for the zone based on the zone standard. The problem here is that he doesn't have the rear yard. And I think that's important to note, just because, like I said, when we're talking about adequate light, air, and open space, we have to look at the setback and the deficiency, but we also have to look at how big the structure is relative to the community standards and whether or not we're creating multiple issues. The fact that we're only creating the one variance is probably not a bad thing.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. So it's 8.75 foot, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And then one of the things that we like to do, since you mentioned that, is that when we're denying applications in the zoning office, we like to look at alternative development options to see how we can accommodate the proposal of the applicant in a way that doesn't violate our ordinances. And if you look at the construction plans and the site plan, you'll see that the home, while not to the limits in the bulk standards with the building envelope that's reflected on the site plan, there's really no way to accomplish an addition that could accommodate a bedroom with an ensuite without reconstructing the whole structure on the first floor and or losing the garage, which the applicant didn't want to do. So you'll notice that the garage is intact, something that often our homeowners do. They'll convert the garage, lose the inside parking, and then usually widen driveways. That isn't the case here.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Board members, questions of the applicant or the construction the construction manager, I guess, that he's hired? Any? Go ahead, Mr. Scogno. You're muted, Leon. Leon, you're muted.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Natalie, can you put up the on the screen of the construction?
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you.
Lower left, you'll see the proposed bedroom and bathroom.
Hmm. Is this, would this be considered a third floor?
It's on the ground level.
I know, but the,
It's not going above anything.
yeah, so the applicant proposes a one-story addition
Right.
to his two-story single-family home.
Yeah, it's not going to be 2 stories. It's going to be a single story at the back of the home.
Oh, a single story to the back.
Yes.
Not going up.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scogno. Any other board members? Want to be heard? No? Mr. Seth, I'm going to go to a public portion at this point, okay? We'll see if there's any questions or comments from the public. This is 1820-22Z. Location is 42 Donald Circle for home edition. If you wish to be heard in this matter, there's a screen in front of you with phone numbers. Please call one now. This will be the only public portion on this matter this evening. So if you have comments or questions about it, now would be the time to call. While we're waiting, we'll give us a time as the Mr. Singh, was there anything else you would like us to know about the, it seems pretty straightforward here. Anything else you want to tell us about the construction?
No, that's it.
Okay, and this is obviously, it's going to match the home, I would assume, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And before I give you the last word, Mr. Seth, we're just going to see if there's any calls that come in. Just see, do we have anybody in queue?
We do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Once again, if you want to be heard on this matter, the phone numbers are in front of you. If you're watching us on whatever device, you can call any one of them to make a comment or a question. And no calls at this point, Missy?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dasty, have we given enough time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to close the public portion on this. Mr. Seth, is there any final comments you want us to know? I think what you're doing is great to try and keep a parent at home and not housed in a nursing home. It's fantastic. I did that for my mother as well. It's touching. So,
No, thank you, sir. I don't have anything more to add.
Thank
And I
you.
appreciate you giving me the time.
It's quite all right, sir. Having nothing from the public, Mr. Dasty, you have any comments?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. It's very
Thank you.
straightforward.
Board members, this is straightforward. Would someone be in favor of an approval? Please move this at this time.
Connor, motion to approve.
Okay, this is merely an 8.7-foot setback to the rear. Connor, first, is there a second?
Second, Scogno?
Second by Mr. Scogno. Roll call, please, Mr.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. We don't have a resolution tonight, Mr. Dasty, do we?
I do, Mr. Chairman, if I can ad lib it, and the applicant is before the board tonight seeking a bulk variance relief to construct a first floor addition for his mother. The applicant requires a bulk variance relief for a 8.75 foot encroachment into the rear yard setback. As was testified to tonight, it is a corner lot, and as a result, because of the condition of the lot and the home being pushed back and in between the two streets, it's an irregularly shaped lot, and then it would be difficult, if not impossible, to provide a conforming application. The applicant and his contractor testified in support of the application, provided unrefuted testimony that the granting of the variance, the variances can be granted without a substantial detriment to the public good, and certainly would not impair the intent of the zone planners zoning ordinances, and the benefits in granting the variance outweigh any detriment. A motion was made and seconded, all approved in granting the application.
And the only restriction would be 1 year and to match the current home.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, is that satisfactory with you, Mr. Seth?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Let me take a vote on the resolution, sir. Does someone want to move the resolution?
Scogno, move it.
Is there a second?
Andrew,
Second.
Andrew, second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
yes,
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
See her on the bottom, but I don't see her on the screen. Ms. Chevalier, we don't see your video, or I don't know if you dropped. Here she comes. Okay. Your vote, Doreen. Ms. Chevalier, are you hearing us or no?
I am now. Yeah.
Okay, and your vote is yes? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes,
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
As I said before, sir, it's an admirable thing that you're doing for your mother, and I hope she lives many, many more years and enjoys the comforts of the home. My vote is yes.
Thank you.
Good night, sir, and good night to Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Stein. Okay,
Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night.
good night. Board member, the next application, if you look on your agendas, and I'm going to say something before I call this one in. This one and the very next one after it have something in common because they're right next to each other. And they're both corner lots, one facing, they're both corner lots on Seneca, one on Teton, and the other one on Pensacola. And they are both probably wanting to do the same thing, and it's a fence. And the fence probably has to do with the house in Teton is having a built-in pool for them. So having said that, each one is based on its own merits. We have to listen to both. So, but keep in mind, there is somewhat a relation, I believe, to this. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. So I'll call the first one in. Just bear in mind, we're going to hear each one separately. It's 23-2022Z Raymond Lally. This is block 15538, lot 4 at 1 Teton. This is requiring a C variance for a fence. Applicant proposes construction of a 6-foot tall fence. Mr. Lally, I saw you on here. You're going to be the only one to testify, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, board attorney will swear you in.
Hello, Mr. Lally. Thank you very much. You raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
I do.
Can we have your first and last name, please, sir?
Raymond Lally, RaymondLalley, Lally, Lalley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lally. You probably heard my explanation to the previous applicant. You're not represented by an attorney because you just need a bulk variance or a C variance. So at your own pace, we're going to ask you why you're requiring this. I may be right in what my comments were, and that would be Mr. Capola's. He'd be the next application. But you'll straighten that out for us. Tell us what you're doing, why you're doing it, and why you're here before the board.
Yes, sir. No, thank you. You're absolutely right. We just had a pool installed. And we are a corner lot. So we happen to be a corner lot with the home facing straight on Teton Place. And because that is our short side is on Seneca, technically our front of our home is Seneca, even though we face towards Teton Place. And we just want a 6-foot vinyl fence. It's going to be halfway going down our house. So it won't be all the way in the front. It'll be halfway. There's no line of sight issues. We have a stop sign on our street. So there's no issues pertaining to any traffic or vehicles making turns in that nature. And the fence would just be great with the pool, the security, and also the privacy of the residents.
Understood, and you're going to need it for insurance purposes anyway, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your corner lot, you're going to run the fence all along. You got, board members, if you haven't seen this, the two houses, the backs face each other. So the back of one house is facing the back of the other. And again, as Mr. Lally just said, his house is right on the corner, and you'll hear from Mr. Capola next that his house is on the other corner. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Lally. Is the fence going to go, Mr. Coppola, your neighbor has a chain link fence that's there now. It's
Yes.
kind of in a little disrepair, but is that where your fence is going to go?
Correct.
And then it's going to come down both sides of the house, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now how far off of the property line are you going to put that?
From the Seneca roadside? or-
Yes, from the Seneca.
It would match where his chain link fence
Okay.
is. It would mimic the same distance off the sidewalk, off the street.
Right.
So everything would be matching. It'd be nice.
Yeah, understood. This is going to be vinyl, I would assume.
Correct.
Let me see what the zoning officer has to say, and then let's see if the board has any questions. Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, just to answer that last question that you had asked, it's going to be a little less than 5 feet. It's approximately 5 feet from the property line along Seneca. And that is actually where I want to start, because one of the things that our ordinance does is, and that's why the applicant's here this evening, is because proposing a 6-foot solid fence in a front yard, where 6-foot solid fences are only permitted in the side and the rear yard. And the unique condition here with Mr. Lally's application is that while his house is oriented to Pensacola, and most might reasonably so call that the front yard, that's actually the secondary front yard. The primary front yard in our ordinance is defined as the narrow street frontage. So regardless of the orientation of the building, the narrower street frontage is the true front yard, and then the secondary front yard is the balanced street. And that's kind of what's at issue, because if the definition were different or the building were oriented differently, we actually have the ability in our ordinance to allow a 6-foot solid fence in a second front yard, 5 foot from the front property line. So if this house was just flipped and faced Seneca, the applicant would not be here for a variance this evening, because he would be enclosing the Pensacola side most likely, and he would be well within his right to do so by ordinance. But it's by the technical nature of the definition that he's here before us this evening. He's trying to capture as much of his rear yard as possible to make it look nice. Conversely, if he were to strictly comply with the ordinance, he would either have to have a 4-foot, 50% open fence in the front yard, which I believe will have some issues complying with the pool and spa code. Not so much with the height, but with the material type. It needs to be a tighter web so that children can't scale it. And then he would lose approximately 35, almost 40 feet of side yard that he currently has, because he'd have to build it in line with the existing dwelling. And if you look at the center on the survey, he's approximately 35 and a half feet. So the fence would have to follow along the back, and he'd lose a substantial portion of his yard. That is what I have for you guys this evening on this application.
I have a question, Mr. Gill.
Yes, Chairman.
Where's he proposing to put the fence? On the line or just on his side?
I'm sorry, on the line or on his side? You're talking about
On the lot line.
You're talking on Seneca Street?
Well, to the rear of his home, I'm assuming the next person that's going to come up is going to say they're going to do the same thing, or are they going to do that, or they're going to share the one fence?
Right now, the ordinance or the survey reflects that there's a 2-foot setback. I actually haven't discussed with Mr. Lally if they were going to put it on the property line. I think that's something we can ask Mr. Lally, but right now this survey indicates that the existing chain link fence is about a 1/2 foot in the back corner, and it's about 2 foot getting all the way out to Seneca.
Okay, you're going to put it right on the lot line, sir, or is it coming in off your lot line in the rear?
Yes, sir. It'll be right on the line. It'll be a shared rear fence.
Okay, then I have a legal question for Mr. Dasty.
Yes, sir.
If it's a shared fence that runs along the lot line, that's okay?
If it is a shared fence that runs along the lot line, is it well, they're both going to need variance relief.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But when one or the other goes to sell the house, is there a problem down the road? When there's a shared fence on the lot line?
If it's, it could be a problem, Mr. Chairman. I mean, other people have done it. I think whoever his next purchaser is and whoever his next neighbor is going to be, they're each going to have a question as to whose responsibility it is if the fence goes down. And but that's something that's certainly the board, that's to a certain extent outside the purview of the board. But if I were Mr. Lally's attorney, I would advise him that. Well, I would advise him. We'll leave it at that.
I understand. Yeah, because I'm pretty certain we're going to hear the same thing, that it's going to be a shared fence. So
Sure.
It's going to be perfectly on the lot line. Otherwise, someone's encroaching on somebody else's, right?
Yep, that's correct, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Or sir, if it needed to be on my property, that would be fine. If it needed to come in to make there not be any issue in the future, now or in the future.
Oh, that's an interesting point. So if you put it a few inches in onto the lot, on your lot, it would still be a shared fence because you're good neighbors, but it would be your responsibility.
It'd be your responsibility.
Yes,
Yeah, and Mr. Lally, for a number of reasons, I think someone needs to claim complete ownership of the fence, and either it be completely on your property or completely on your neighbor's property.
Absolutely.
And I think, Mr. Lally, you're affirming that you would take the responsibility.
Yes, sir. And I believe there's a waiver as well. I think that, is there a waiver?
Chairman.
Go ahead.
The things what I think Mr. Lally is referring to, Mr. Lally, correct me if I'm wrong, is with regard to the pool.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to say this when, I was waiting for the chairman to finish, but then Mr. Lally jumped in. One of the things, if it were your concern, Chairman, about the pool barrier, because that's one of the reasons that we're doing this, is to enclose the pool and comply with the building codes. One of the things that would happen is if the property were lying on a fence that were on the neighbor's property or on the property line where there may be some joint ownership, there is an affidavit that the applicant would have to file. Certainly, if he were to kick it in so that the exterior face touches the property line and then the neighbor tie it in, that would make it neat from a legal perspective, because then you have full custodial right to the property. In either case, the building department does have a procedure in place for that. So if the fence were to come down, and let's say it was on the neighbor's property, there's an affidavit that would have been filed where the applicant then is compelled to put up his own fence for the pool.
Okay.
So there is a mechanism in place should it hit their property. And I just wanted to throw that out there in case that was part of the concern.
Okay. And well, let me just guess. I'll play the devil's advocate here now. The next applicant, Mr. Coppola, the fence that's going to come down along the side of his house on Seneca is probably going to meet up with Mr. Lally's fence. I'm assuming. So then therefore his fence is over the property line.
Correct.
You're saying there can be a waiver or there's a mechanism for them to.
Well, no, there's a mechanism specifically for pool barriers, building department. The zoning office's position on fences and where they meet the property line. And I think land use professionals in general stay silent as to whether or not, obviously a zoning permit cannot give rights to an individual to encroach onto another individual's property, regardless of their cooperation, whatever the case may be. So one of the things that we do in our zoning office, regardless of whether variance conditions are applicable or not, is that we always inform the applicant that it would be a good idea that a fence be installed offset from the property line, where the exterior face and the property line meet. That way, one person has full custodial rights to it. Surveys and title searches will bear that out. And then if they want to allow their neighbor to tie in or encroach, at that point, there should be some legal agreement. And at that point, we would advise them, kind of like Mr. Dasty said, that they should get advice so that they properly document these types of things. And then the zoning office doesn't treat that as an encroachment because there are agreements in place. Back in the day, that was the norm. You call your neighbor, say, let's go have on a fence. You'd shake hands, and that was that.
Right.
And then lawyers got in the way.
Yeah.
No, lawyers got rich getting that.
All right, Mr. Lally, I wasn't asking those questions to hinder you, but to help you, sir.
No,
That's all.
absolutely.
Okay, and I just don't want to see something happen down the road. So because your neighbor may move and that may go away, but let's hope not.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, just so the record's clear, I mean, it would, Mr. Lally, and please stop me if I'm going too far into this, but would Mr. Lally agree as a condition of approval that the fence is completely on his property, set back onto his property?
Absolutely. I'd bring it in, whatever needs to be done with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's indicated that he would take the responsibility and move it in just off the lot line.
Yep.
So it's fully his responsibility. And
I
then
got
what
it.
he does and shares with his neighbors is not our concern. We'll get to that one in the next application.
Yes, sir.
Board members, Mr. Lally, is anyone else going to testify? No, right?
No, sir.
And you don't have anything else you want to add at this time, right?
No, just like I said, the state with the street, there's no line of sight. There's no issues pertaining that. It's strictly for the security of the pool and
Right.
and privacy and we'll do the right thing and make sure everything's safe.
That's understandable, and thank you. And I'm not shutting you off, but I am going to ask the board if they have any questions. Then I'm going to have to go to the public portion as well. Board members of Mr. Lally, the applicant. I see Mr. Scogno has his hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Larry. Was it a block down from you, Pepsi-Cola?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a home down there I drove by. They have a white vinyl fence, and they seem to come way off their property line.
Yes, sir.
And their neighbor is a chain link fence similar to your situation. Is it?
Yes.
Do you have to have that all the way out to the property line because of a pool requirement? Do you have enough
I
room?
wouldn't be allowed to go to the property line,
Right.
being the corner, but in the neighborhood, there are many corner lots in my same situation, my same scenario that do have exactly what I'm seeking.
Yes.
Have either been approved or grandfathered in, or I'm not the first one. There's just about quite a few.
It's exactly what you're asking for.
Correct.
Yeah, off the property and way back, must be 10 feet.
Yes.
Chairman, if I may?
Go ahead, sir.
For Mr. Scogno, Mr. Scogno, we didn't do an analysis and for that reason, I didn't present that this evening, but during the review process and trying to find how other applications were approved, we did come across, I'd say conservatively, half a dozen properties with similar configurations where there was no clear evidence of permitting. It wasn't an in-depth analysis, but we were able to confirm that at least a half a dozen properties within, I'd say, what was it, Mr. Lally, like 3 blocks?
Yes, sir.
Three blocks where corner properties were in a very, very similar situation.
And I drove through there, and I would agree with you, Damian. And then there's quite a few. And
Quite a few, yeah. There's quite a few.
Probably more that have it than don't at this point.
Yes.
And one more question, Mr. Larry. Are you going to have a solid white fence, or is it going to have the lattice type of plastic on top?
Solid white.
Solid all the way up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Scogno. Any other board members? Questions? I see no hands at this point. All right, Mr. Lally, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to a public portion, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to open the public portion on this matter. It's 23-2022Z. The location is 1 Teton Place for a fence of 6 foot in height. You see the phone numbers in front of you. If you have any comments or questions about this particular application, we ask you to call in at this time. This will be the only open public portion for this application. So we do advise you, if you want to be heard, to do so by calling in. Ms. C, is anyone in queue?
No.
Okay, we'll give it a little time for anybody to call in. We could speed it up. Mr. Lally, you have any final comments? Because what'll happen is I'm going to ask you if you want to vote after this. And if you want to make any comments now, I'll just go back to the public portion as well.
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Any phone calls yet?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, once again, this is locations 1 Teton Place. If you have a comment or question, please dial the phone now. This will be the only public portion that will be held on this particular application this evening. Mr. Dasty, have we provided sufficient time for a phone call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close the public portion. Board members, any questions or comments before I call for a vote on this? No one else is. Yes,
more.
Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
One more. Mr. Larry, you have a large tree in your yard? Is that
I do,
been
sir.
removed?
I
Is that
do.
that's going to be removed?
That's staying. It's on the Seneca roadside. It's a, I believe it's a spruce.
Yeah, quite large, right?
It is.
Isn't that where the pool's going?
The pool's on the other side.
On the other side?
The pool is on, it's the opposite side of Seneca.
Hmm.
Any other comments or questions from the board? No? Damien, this is the not the height variance, is it? It's the fact that it's because of it's a corner lot, right?
Corner lot that it requires a height variance
Right.
and essentially it's a configuration material type. The fence should be of a composition that has 50% viewable open space or negative space. So your picket fences, your chain links, post and rail, something you can see through. The fact that it is solid is a variance condition. The fact that it is a height variance or the height of it is a variance condition. We've historically treated that as one variance because the part and parcel. But yeah, that's what the variance is for.
Right, and that was my question. It's going to be one vote and one C variance for the height and the solid fence.
Unless Mr. Dest agrees.
I think that's appropriate. One vote, it's one issue, it's the fence. That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Dasty, for the advice. Someone want to move this for approval at 1 Teton? I will. Is there a second?
Connor, I'll second.
Connor seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yeah.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Can you do a quick resolution, Mr. Dasty?
I certainly can, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is here tonight seeking a bulk variance relief pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70C to erect a 6-foot vinyl white fence. The subject property is a corner lot, and as a result of it being a corner lot, the fence variance relief is necessary because a solid 6-foot fence is not permitted due to the corner nature of the property. The applicant provided testimony in support of the application that as a result of the unique shape of the lot and it being on a corner with a pool in the backyard, the fence is necessary and appropriate and frankly required, and that it would not be inconsistent with the neighborhood, the zone plan or zoning ordinance, and that he satisfied the positive and negative criteria. And as a result, the board voted in favor, unanimously voted in favor of the application. That is the resolution which will memorialize the findings of the board. If it pleased the board, then you can vote on that resolution tonight and it will be published tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Dasty. Board members, you've heard the resolution. Someone move it for adoption.
I'll move
Chevalier
it.
moves it.
I think that was Doreen, I believe. Yes? Ms.
Yeah, I'll
Chevalier?
move it.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second Stoner.
Second is by Mr. Stoner. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
yes,
Miss Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Enjoy your pool, Mr. Lally, and enjoy your yard.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay, best of luck, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move right to 24-2022Z. That's Luigi Capola. This is at block 15538, lot 5, 41 Pensacola, also for a 6-foot fence requiring a C variance. Mr. Capola, I see you on the screen. Are you going to be the only one that testifies this evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay, board attorney will swear you in.
Mr. Capola, could you please raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm to testify truth in this matter before the board?
I do.
And can we have your first and last name, please, sir?
Luigi, Luigi, Coppola, Coppola.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Thank you.
Coppola, obviously this, you're kind of tied in with this. Again, as I said, I visited your properties and I know your home is, with the backs of your home face each other. You're over on Pensacola and Seneca. And you have a chain link fence up at present, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you can tell us what you want to do, how you're going to do it. I'm assuming you're going to tell us you want to take that down and put up another one, but you can do so at your own pace.
Okay. Yeah, just like you said, we're going to take out the chain link, which is in disarray, and put up a 6-foot white vinyl fence, just as Mr. Lally's property. It's for security for our daughter and our dog, and to make it a little more aesthetic.
And is it going to follow exactly where your fence presently is, or is it going to move a little bit?
It's going to follow it exactly as the present fence.
Okay. And you heard, by way of Mr. Lally's application, you heard that I guess that's going to be a shared common back fence, right? Between the two yards?
Correct. Yes.
And Mr. Lally said he's going to assume responsibility in his, because he's going to move it slightly off the lot line. And you understand what I'm talking about there, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're fine with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your fence, will it connect on the sides at some point?
With Mr. Lally's, yes.
Okay, so you would be in agreement, I guess, with your neighbor that I guess the common post may be on both persons' lot line, right? At least where it connects?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you don't have any problem with that as a neighbor?
No.
If need be, further down the line, if there's a need for an agreement, sir, would you be willing to engage in that agreement if advised by the town that it might be the smart thing to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, I'm just trying to protect your interests as well as your neighbor's interests. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to tell us? Is it the same type of fence, sir?
It's the same exact fence.
Okay. And you're probably using the same contractor, I would guess, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, we're splitting the cost of the back.
Okay. Well, very good. That's a good neighbor right there, both of you. Let me see if the board has any questions for you, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Well, actually, let me go to Mr. Gill first, because he's going to tell us what the variance is, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to hear what he said before.
Yes, Chairman. The applicant is proposing a 6-foot solid fence in the front. Similar to the previous application that we've heard, the property has a narrow facing side and a longer facing side. And because of the definition that defines what a front yard is, the application, though the orientation would lead you to believe that one side is the true side yard, it really is not. And for that reason, we have to hold him to the standard that his side yard, which really captures his backyard, is the primary front yard. And for that reason, he's not permitted to put a 6-foot solid fence up. And that's what he needs relief for this evening. You okay there, Chairman? Can't hear anything.
I think you muted yourself, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, I went mute there for a second. I couldn't hear the chairman.
I did, no, that was me because the parrot is again screaming, so I muted myself while you were speaking. While you were speaking.
Objecting again.
Yeah, as always. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Board members, questions for the applicant or any of Mr. Gill? Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
Mr. Gill, will this be 2 fences?
No, that was already explained, Leon. It's one common fence in the back.
You know,
Yeah.
what was explained on the corner lot, on the corner piece.
There have
There's
two
one fence
individual-
going straight back.
There's going to be one fence going straight back.
Right.
So
And
Between-
there's normally a good side and the bad side. Is that
because
correct?
because it's vinyl, this will be finished on both sides.
Both sides are finished. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Scogno? No? Okay. Any other board members? Okay, seeing none. Is there anything else at this particular time, Mr. Coppola, that you'd like us to know?
No, sir.
I have one question. Is he going to let you swim in his pool?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. All right, sir, would you mind if I go to a public portion on this matter?
Sure.
Okay. For the public, this is 24-22, the 2022Z. This is located at 41 Pensacola for a 6-foot fence requiring a C variance. If you have any questions or comments on this matter, there's phone numbers that you should see on the screen on whatever device you're watching this on. Please call that one of those numbers now and you can be heard. Is anyone in queue, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll just give it a little bit of time for anyone to make a phone call and hopefully the parrot calms down.
Get in the queue.
I think I'm going to send them out on Thursday nights from now on. Has anyone called in, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dasty?
It's sufficient time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Any final comments, Mr. Coppola?
No, sir.
Okay, board members, any final comments or questions? More importantly, okay, seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote, Mr. Coppola.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Anyone in favor of moving this application for approval? Is that Ms. Chevalier? It broke up. Would you try it again? I think your screen is freezing up on you, Ms. Chevalier. Okay, try it again, Ms. Chevalier, if that was you saying yes. All right, we'll circumvent that. I'll move it for approval. Is there a second? I think Doreen's screen is frozen there because we're not getting you. Is there a second for this?
Second, Scogno.
Okay, moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
I think she lost it. Probably the. Oh, wait a minute. Now, Doreen, are you back?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm having internet problems.
That's okay. We already moved in second. I think you're up for the vote now.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, Mr. Dasty, resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant was before the board tonight seeking bulk variance relief to install a 6-foot white vinyl fence as testified by the applicant, conferred by Mr. Gill, because the property fronts on 2 streets. It is a corner lot. The property is irregularly shaped, and as a result, the bulk variance relief is necessary. The applicant provided testimonies for the application that the granting of the variance can occur without a substantial detriment to the public good and will not be inconsistent with the neighborhood. As Mr. Gill indicated, there are a number of properties in the area that have this type of situation on corner lots. The board voted in favor of the application unanimously, and the resolution is prepared. And if the board votes to approve the resolution, it can be sent to Ms. C tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dasty. Board members, you heard the resolution. Someone in favor of moving it for approval?
Honor, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, Scogno.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
I hope you get that project going quick because it's going to be a hot summer, so you can enjoy that pool together. And best of luck on being friends and good neighbors. My vote is yes.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you both for appearing this evening for the board.
Thank you, sir.
Board members, the last application, I'll read into the record, it has been adjourned. It's 16-2022Z, block 5,000.25, lot 20 at 201 Princeton for a canopy overhang. Applicant proposed construction of a canopy overhang. They've made a request for an adjournment, and this will be rescheduled for September 1, 2022 with further notice. If anyone in the audience tonight was interested in that application, it will not be heard this evening. It will be on our agenda September 1, 2022, and there will be further notice. We'll go to final comments, general public comments. Anyone at this point, if you'd like to address the board on a matter, feel free to call in. We'll put up that number again, or those numbers. And while we do that, when I do this, obviously I can't see the rest of the board, but if we could go once around the room if anyone has an interest in making any comments this evening. Let's see, Ms. Andrews, anything from you?
Have a healthy, excuse me, July 4th.
Thank you.
You as well.
And Mr. Stoner, anything?
No, nothing to add.
Thank you. Mr. Scogno?
Have a great July 4th.
All right, sir. Thank you. And Ms. Chevalier? About Mr. Connor?
All set here.
Okay. Mr. Kunstowicz, I can't see you, but I know you're here. No comments? Okay. I don't have anything other than wishing everybody a healthy and happy holiday. We're almost through the month of June. Well, we're halfway through the month of June. Has anyone called in on the phone lines, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Dasty, I'm going to close the public portion of public comments. Do you have anything that you'd like to advise the board on, sir?
I do not. Everyone have a wonderful July 4th.
Thank you for your guidance and counsel as always, Mr. Dasty.
Thank you.
All right, board members, I'm going to call for an adjournment. Someone want to move for an adjournment, please?
Move it, Scogno.
Is there a second?
Second, Stoner.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
I think she's having Wi-Fi problems.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Happy Father's Day and yes.
Oh, yes. Happy Father's Day.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, best to all. Have a great weekend coming up too. Happy Father's Day to all.
You as
We
well.
stand
You
adjourned.
too.
Have a nice night, everyone.
Take care.
Mm.